Today we're specifically going to look at Facebook and see how you can use Facebook, because obviously it can be a bit daunting sometimes. I'm not sure daunting is the word. Now, as an example, now I've searched "learn English" as the search term, and you have all sorts of things that come up. Now, I guess fortunately or unfortunately, because I have my own page here with Lesson Jigsaw, a lot of my results are coming up. And I'm not sure if it does that normally or if it's just trying to impress me, that sort of thing. But we're going to ignore my ones and just sort of look at some of the, I guess, the posts that come up and consider what can actually be done, what can be, I guess, achieved through using the different things that we can find. Now, say for example, here we have a video.
Okay, let's continue.
Okay, so here we have like a video where they're talking about expressions to use with your doctor. Now, obviously, if you see this and you go, oh, okay, I want to see a doctor. I want to be able to talk to a doctor in English, that sort of thing. This can be very useful. Now, obviously, as you can see there's lots of vocabulary. So you have what looks to be is the structure on the left, and on the right you have some examples with some extra vocabulary. So like with the body parts in there in red is what it looks like. Now, I would say with this sort of stuff, I would check the vocabulary that I do know and don't know. The ones that you don't know, obviously you would look for a translation so you understand it, put it on your vocabulary list, and prioritize it. Always prioritize the vocabulary list when you're adding words to it. But then I would try to, as much as I can, do some type of role play, or if you're with another person, it's easier to do a role play, I guess, but to do some sort of role play or some sort of situation where you're, let's say, telling a story. So just the individual, the sentences themselves may not be the greatest thing just to practice by themselves. But if you try and tell a story, because that's normally what you would do, I would suggest, when you go to the doctor, you explain what happened, you explain your symptoms and that sort of thing. So I would practice trying to explain what my symptoms are, what I'm feeling, and that sort of thing, using, in this case, the vocabulary that you see there. And as you're going through as well, you may also find that you're thinking, oh, okay, I want to explain this or that. And perhaps that wasn't covered, but because you're trying to say it aloud, and this is the important thing, that you're saying it out loud, and when you're trying to say, you go, oh, I don't know what the word is for that. Again, you look for the missing word that you don't know, and that's the gold. That is absolute gold. If you can find the vocabulary that you don't know, that you want to know, that's not necessarily mission accomplished, but effectively in terms of a practice session, there's been a significant benefit to that practice session. Because say like with something like this, and from other examples that we'll see, sometimes the problem can be that you can have too much vocabulary. Okay, so this, I guess, is a pretty good example. Let me just. Okay, so here we're talking about opposites. Now, I understand for a lot of times it's nice to have things that are useful and practical, and we like lists. We like free stuff, we like lists, and we're looking for an easy way, nice and convenient to learn. And now it may well be like, if you look through a lot of these, many of them will be very, very common and very, very useful. But now I don't know how many there are here. There's quite a few. Let's have a guess that maybe there's maybe 70, maybe 60, 70 words here, which is a lot. This is a lot to learn. And I think it's a very difficult thing. Now, you may know many of these just by themselves anyway, because you've come across them. So words like, always and never, more and less, early and late, would probably be very, very common, and you'd probably you'd be aware of these. So in terms of actually needing to learn them, that's not really necessary. So that would obviously be the first thing you would do if you have such a huge list. Cross off the ones that you know that you're comfortable with, that you can use at any time. And when you need to use it, you can recall it, and boom, you can use it, no problem. But then what I would do is, as you go through the list and you go, oh, okay, I don't know this, I don't know this, what you then need to do is to say, okay, how often, now if you don't know what the word is, obviously you need to look for a translation to find the meaning. Here we have zero context. We just have a bunch of words, which can be problematic in some ways. But if you use a dictionary, of course, that can give you give you the meaning. So, and I guess that's something to think about. You can either use a translator to get the definition or the translation, or use a dictionary. So, say for example, what's a word here? Let's look at freeze. Freeze is a nice word. Now, for this, let's pop over to the Longman online dictionary. So, we would say freeze. So, if we search freeze. Now, the advantage of a dictionary like this is that we have the family of the words. So all the other words that you could see, nouns, adjectives, verbs, and so on. You've got the different pronunciations here that you can listen to. I'm not sure. Maybe with this, that's the same pronunciation for US and UK. But certainly you have the different categories of definition, which is pretty standard. I guess the other point is that you have lots of examples that you can look at. You have phrasal verbs, but then probably the best thing is that we have lots of practical examples. So here we see examples from the corpus. So the corpus is like examples of English in literature and other places, perhaps websites. I'm not sure how expansive the corpus is these days, but they're, let's say, published examples of this vocabulary, and you can see lots of real examples, not just made up. And this can be very useful. Now, it looks like these, though, they don't have a recording, but like we saw, with some of the example sentences with the definitions, you do have the examples and so on. And actually here, so this is actually quite good as well. So you've got, if there is let's just use the word here, a business or a company, or more perhaps formal in some senses, use of the word, you have those definitions as well. So that's another reason why this is quite good. If you're looking for ways that people use it, so here you have the pronunciation, that's just of the word, and then you have the pronunciation in the sentence. In the sentence is generally, I would suggest, always better, because we don't really say words by themselves. Well, we do sometimes, but generally not. We say them in sentences normally. And so with that, you have, sounds and words connecting. And so they don't sound, let's say, like the pure word, if we can express it in that way. So, for example, if we go to somewhere like Youglish, let me just pop over here. So if we go to Youglish, we type in freeze. Now, this is a pretty common word. You can select, if you want, different types of accents or origins. This searches YouTube and gives us, in this case, just over, what is it? Just over 9,000 returns. And you can listen to, very quickly, you can listen to lots of different people saying the particular word that you want to in real circumstances. Now, sometimes it's TV shows, maybe it's presentations, but other times it's just conversation. So that could be a useful tool as well. So, okay, so the problem back here was that there's no context. It's just a list. So you can use the dictionaries and that sort of thing to get more of a context. And then when you've determined what the actual word means, then again, I would think about, how important is this for me to learn? Do I really need to learn this? Is this going to be applicable? So, for example, freeze. Like if you want to talk about the weather, you just say, "Oh, it's cold," and if you can say, "Oh, it's freezing," or "I'm gonna freeze to death out here." Come on, let's get inside. I mean, if you don't necessarily need to learn, if you don't necessarily need to pump up, to be able to paraphrase for things, or for example, like maybe if you work in a kitchen or you work for a company that sells foodstuffs and that sort of thing, maybe freeze could be a very, very common word that you would need to use. But if not, it may not be a word that's important for you to use. So you need to make that decision. And that's where we talk about prioritizing. So whenever you get words from or to put into your vocabulary list, you need to always prioritize the importance, and then always take from the top because you've prioritized it. And that makes the time that you have to practice vocabulary more valuable and useful for you. So again, yes, so go through the list and you determine, if it's important for you to learn at all. I mean, if you start seeing it, over and over and over again, maybe it's going, oh, okay, maybe I've got to start using this if it's it's a super common word, But again, you determine the priority. It may be important because you see it very often. It may be important because you need it to use it in work or life or whatever. Or maybe you have a presentation tomorrow. You have to use it in the presentation. So, you gotta learn it, and you got to figure out how to use it. You got to work out maybe if there are any sort of prepositions that go with it and whatnot. And then once you've determined, okay, I need to use it, then use it. And again, what I would suggest is trying to avoid just writing sentences or just saying individual sentences without any other context. I would always try, if you can, take a bit of time and tell stories. I guess I'm thinking here more about speaking, but of course this works for writing. The main thing overall is that you're producing. You have to be speaking and writing English. Anytime where you see stuff like this and go, oh, okay, I'm going to save this or write this down so I can use it later, but you never actually use it, well, there's almost no point. I mean, it can feel good to get to download a PDF or something, but if you're not actually using it, there's very little value to it. And again, you got to find the gold in there. You got to find what's important. So that's why I say, let's say there's 60, 70, 80 words here. If you find, 4 or 5 words that's useful for you that you're going to use, perfect, fantastic. You don't need all of them necessarily. But you need to make that judgment call for your personal learning. Learn what's appropriate for you. But as I say, tell stories. So again, speaking or writing, either way or both, if you can. Tell stories. So if it's about freeze, so think about, okay, how can I use freeze in a story? Because you've said it's a priority that you're going to use it. So what's the context where you might be using it? So you could be talking about a freeze in pay. You could be talking about a freeze in terms of you've bought something from the supermarket and you need to freeze it or something like that. Or it could be in terms of the weather, So depending on how you think you might be using it, And you don't necessarily have to restrict. You maybe you would use it for all of them, but I would try to use it. Tell a story, and of course, the story doesn't. You don't have to use freeze in every single sentence, and you wouldn't. That would be very strange. I mean, it's possible, but it's very strange. You don't normally have the same word in every sentence, especially if like a word like that. So I would choose to tell a story, and then you add the word in at the right moment. So maybe you're telling this story. Maybe it's 200, 300 words in this story, and the word freeze is maybe smack bang in the middle of the story, and that's it. And then you've used it, and then you tell another story, and that's the way you're practicing using the vocabulary. So it's not just saying, freeze 100 times. It's not saying 20 sentences with freeze, because that's unrealistic. That's not how we normally use vocabulary. It may be worthwhile as well when you're doing things like that. If you're telling a story, you can ask yourself questions. Or if you have a partner and you can speak with someone, that's even better. Speak with the partner, ask each other questions, have a conversation, where you have the opportunity to use that word or other words that are going along with it that you're trying to learn, and you have the conversation using that, but asking questions, giving answers, having a conversation gives you the opportunity then as well to have positive and negative sentences. So you get like a nice mixture of the usage of the vocabulary. But that's really important, that you don't see a list like this and go, oh, wow, there's 50 words here that I can use. Fantastic. And then you try and use all of them. That is, dare I say, worst case scenario. If you're trying to use all of these, because I'm not sure if anyone does that. So it really has to be broken down, like step by step, bit by bit. And that's why I say, look through the list, see what's important for you. If it's important, add it to your vocabulary list. If it's not important, don't worry about it. If it is important, it'll probably come up, at some other point. It'll come up again if it's really important, and so forth.
Another point to note is,
how do I get out of that? Okay. What's a list of opposite adjectives? Well, nothing came up there. This seems to be some movie. Okay, so I'm not sure how they're using that there. Okay. Well, this is another example, and I guess this is the thing. It's very common to see this sort of stuff on not just Facebook, but many social medias. You'll see this with a lot of like schools and stuff. And it's not that it's not useful. It's the point that you need to be selective. So think of it as like a buffet or like a platter of some sort. You've got all of these options, and you take the ones that you like, or when I say like, or the ones that are useful for you. Why spend time trying to learn something that's not actually useful for you? And so that's the same with this sort of list here. Again, okay, so here we've got they've got a list of modal verbs. Perhaps there's more. Okay, it's got maybe all the modal verbs. Now this is a lot. This is a lot to learn. And again, I would slow it down. Now I would consider when you're learning things, try and think of what's the actual purpose, and even before that, I guess the one of the ideas you should have, hopefully, is why are you learning English? What's the purpose? And if you, like we saw before with the earlier example, if you have the purpose of I've got to go and see the doctor, then okay, so I need to be able to explain my symptoms. I need to be able to listen to the instructions from the doctor or the pharmacist or whoever it may be. I need to be able to perhaps make an appointment and different things associated with that. So there you've got more of a clear focus of what you need to learn and what you need to practice for those situations. Here, in this sense, we're just learning stuff. It's stuff at random. There's no actual, let's say, purpose as such. So what you need to do is you need to, it's sort of like when you get something and you go, okay, I've got this. Now, what do I do with it? How am I going to use this sort of thing? And this is when you've got sort of vocabulary. So what I would do is when you've got something like this, and as I say, this is quite, obviously there's a few modal verbs, and there's different ways that we use them. And I would just go through slowly. Now, you can either just pick one, for example, one modal, and then you've got the different uses of those modal verbs. And so maybe just pick one and do it like at random if you want to. But perhaps a better use, and similar to what we saw before, is you have a read through them and you look at the general usages. And in this case, you can see in red, they've highlighted the general use of the modal verb. Have a look, so maybe like with should, I can see should can be used for advice. So it's like, oh, okay, well, I like to give advice, or I need to give advice, so I'm going to practice should. And then same sort of thing, you practice that and you think, okay, so I want to give advice about A, B, and C. And then you think, okay, so what are the other words I need to know around that? What's the context? And then again, same sort of thing. Think of the story. How are you going to tell the story of whatever the advice is that you're giving? And then you want to sort of break it down again into questions. So imagine you're giving the advice. What questions could people ask about the advice? What challenges could people give to you about the advice that you're giving? What are the positives and negatives for the advice? So imagine you need to play devil's advocate at the same time. So you say, I'm going to give this advice, but I'm also going to tell them the opposite and the possible consequences if they do something or if they don't do something. You should do this, but you shouldn't do that, and why, and so on. And that sort of thing. And I would break it down into what you actually need to practice. So again, very situational. Look for a sense of, where am I actually going to use this? Is this going to be useful for me to learn? And that's the way I would approach it. And again, you have things like this where you have lists. This is very common on social media. You have lists and lists and lists. And again, you got to go digging. You got to go digging and hunting and refining. Because it's like think of like the person like looking for gold, like gold panning and stuff. You can take the whole sort of, I guess, like pan of soil and mud and whatever, but you've got to look through it and find the bits that you need, find the bits that are valuable for you. And again, just look at this sort of stuff as an opportunity for getting vocabulary, but looking through it and saying no, 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 yes, no, no, yes, yes, no, no, and so on. And you add the ones, you use the ones that are important for you to learn. Don't waste your time on things you don't need to know or don't need to know now. Maybe there's something that maybe you might need to know in 6 months or next year or whenever, but it's not the priority for now. If it is something for maybe 6 months, not too far away, I guess. So maybe you can add it to the priority list, or add it to your vocabulary list, but put the priority low. And maybe you can put like a special note with it, depending on the details, I guess, that you want to add to your priority list. Maybe you could say, need this by November or something like that. And then you can refine the list. If you've put certain months when you need to learn particular vocabulary, you can refine the list and say, okay, these are the words I need to learn in November. Shouldn't be more, I stress, shouldn't be more than absolute maximum, I suggest, absolute maximum of the words, the vocabulary that you're focusing on shouldn't be more than 5 a day. So of course, yes, you need to use other words. You can't just have 5 words but nothing else. But in terms of the words that you're focusing on, you want maximum volume for a small number of words. So you don't want to have, if you've got that list for November, that shouldn't be above, what would that be, like 250, and 250 words is a lot. Is that, have I done that? That's right. No, I haven't. 150. Sorry, 150. So what's that? Yeah, it's 5 times 30, give or take. Yeah. So it shouldn't be more than 150. And 150 is a good amount of words. And if you're focusing, on no more than 5 words or expressions, for the month, for per day for the month, there's going to be a good chance that they're going to lock in. You're going to remember them and be able to use them when you want to. Then if you're going, okay, each day, 150 words, let's say one sentence with each of these words, and then you just try and go through the day. You say each word once or something like that. No focus. High volume for a small number is my suggestion. Let me know in the comments what you think. If you disagree with me, please let me know. I'm happy to hear lots of other ideas, and God, lots of my videos. I think they only show my videos to me, but they don't. I'm not sure if they show them to other people. But anyway, there's a lot of videos. I maybe need to press something else to find to find something. There's a lot of. Maybe I don't know why they only show me my videos. But anyway. Okay, and a similar sort of thing here. So we've got, I don't know how many phrasal, this is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 phrasal verbs. And again, with this, you would need to go, okay, what do I need to learn? Now, these seem to be all associated with travel. I'm not sure what the final one is, but they seem to be associated with travel. So they could be used within the same sort of story. But then you have to be sort of committed to telling different stories and thinking about what's the questions and the scenarios. How am I going to practice that? But you don't want to just practice, 1 or 2 sentences and that's it. I would suggest, really, really focusing. But, if you're not traveling, you're not working in a hotel or a train station, or a train station, I guess, or something like that. A lot of these may not be relevant in the context that they're being presented. So, for example, here it looks like take off. We're talking about the plane taking off, so leaving the ground. Now, a lot of phrasal verbs have more than one definition, as the same as a lot of words have more than one definition. So it could be that one definition is not useful for you, but other definitions are. But again, it's you deciding what's the priority for you and focusing in on that. Okay, I'm going to leave it there. If you have any comments or questions, just let me know. Don't forget to like, subscribe, follow, whatever, all those sorts of things. I'm always willing to have a chat. And to hear your thoughts, ideas. If you want to be practicing, we do some live streams on Facebook, not as much anymore, more on YouTube. But if you want to do some, participate in some of the live streams, we're just basically practicing speaking English. A lot of the times it's just me at the moment, but that's the way it is. So you see an email going underneath at the bottom there. So speakenglish@lessonjigsaw.com. Just tell me about yourself and what you want to speak about, that sort of stuff, where you're from, what your interests are, why you're learning English, those sorts of things. Be very nice to hear from you. So we're going to leave it there. Thanks for watching. Have a great rest of the day or beginning of the day, whatever it is for you. And hopefully you're practicing English, and hopefully this has been useful for you. Take care. Have a good one. Speak to you next time. Bye.